Amen. Good morning. Good morning. It is a good day to be in the house of God in one state of the words. Yeah, this is not the church, but we are part of the church as believers, and I'm excited about that. To be gathered with other believers today to celebrate one of our own coming to us. I'm thankful for Dr. Luther Smith. He has chosen to share with us today. He is the dean of our college, and he is the chair of the Biblical Counseling Department, and I'm so thankful that he's chosen to come today. Dr. Luther Smith.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys for being here on a Friday. I know it's not one of the prime days to be here. I actually like small groups. So for the basketball team, we want them to win, but you're going to miss out on some stuff, though. I hope you do watch later, at least this portion. And now for your viewing pleasure here. I was rummaging through some old photos, and I found some things that you might be interested in. Okay? Now, depending on whether or not this is good or bad or not, we'll just have to see. Here's a picture of me. I was in my younger 20s then, with 3 other individuals. That's me right there. Florida, 2000, at a conference called Flava Fest. This was my hip-hop group way back when. We were carriers of the cross in our big, oversized cargo pants, right? With COTC on the front, right? This is me with my my sunglasses. We were at Disney World. Okay. Here's another picture. Me on the side. In the front is a gentleman by the name of Jeremiah. We called him the Prophesiah because that was his tag name. To the right of him is, let's see. This doesn't work, does it? No, it doesn't. Oh well. To the right of him in gray was a man by the name of Judah Priest. That was the man right there. He was a great rhymer and good, skilled guy. To the left of him, or to the right of him, was a man by the name of Eddie Cortez, who was a part of our group. And then you have me over there on the far left. And then just to add a cherry on top of this is me ripping it. It's been a long time since them days, but I still get down from time to time. You guys don't see that, yeah? You know, you're not going to hear this right now, okay? Talk to me later or something, okay? The reason why I bring all this up too, and you know, this is kind of fun. I always kind of look back on my photos, but I want to talk about art media this morning. Actually, to be honest with you, I kind of want to just expand the topic, because usually when we talk about art, we talk about it being something that we kind of view at a museum or an art gallery or something like that. I want to expand that all of us, to some extent, art just doesn't reside with pictures on walls, okay, according to the word that's used. So how do we define art? What is it? By the way, we will be going into Acts 17 this morning, so you might want to go there and put your thumb there, and we will be there shortly. The English word art is defined as a skill as a result of learning or practice. It is used in various aspects, like a work of art, a practical skill, or even a business or craft. So if we were to look at the qualities of art just by its explanation that it's here, it results in four things. One, it involves learning or education. You can say that those of you guys who are sitting here learning information in your classes, you are artisans in your department. You are learning skills and information that you can use. You can say, in some respects, you are an artisan of your department. Whoops, that was crazy. There's practice involved. Reading is one thing, but practice involving the skill set that you're trying to attain and master, that's also a part of art, right? Thinking back when in the Flavor Fest with the pictures, right, it took me a long time to get there. I've been rhyming since I was 12, right? I was 20 then. So it took me 8 years to feel like I mastered my craft, but it took a lot of practice, a lot of pencil, a lot of graphite, a lot of pen, a lot of ink, right? A lot of listening to music, a lot of thinking, musing, things like that. There's skill involved in art. Skill. And there's craftsmanship too. Excellence, right? That you can hear things or see things or experience things and go, wow, that's amazing, right? A lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of effort comes into making these types of things. And it could be associated with a business or trade, obviously, right? If you are a blacksmith, if you're a jeweler. But again, I expanded out even more. In our department, if you are training to be a counselor, that is a trade. If you're training in theater, that is a skill. If you're training in business or elementary education, all of these things are skills. Essentially, all of us, in one way or another, are artists, right? If these are the qualities that we focus on. Music, right? So there is a word in Scripture that is associated or translated art. We will look at the Hebrew first. It's haras. It occurs 36 times in the Hebrew Scriptures, right? And it is used in various ways, okay? It's mostly translated craftsman, but it's also used in other ways too. For example, in Exodus 28:11, with the construction of the tabernacle, right? God uses this word to describe a jeweler. As a jeweler engraves a signet, you shall engrave 2 stones according to the names of the sons of Israel. Written within this, again, you have craftsmanship, you have skill, right? In this case, this was supernatural, right? The Holy Spirit gave these individuals to complete this task, right? But nevertheless, right, this word is used here. We have something in Deuteronomy as well regarding idolatry, right? And Moses uses this particular word here. He says, "Cursed is the man who makes an idol or a molten image, an abomination to the Lord, the work of the hands of a craftsman." Even crafting an idol involved skill, learning, expertise, practice, right? Other instances here, in 1 Samuel chapter 13, verse 19, it explains a blacksmith. Now, we don't have any blacksmiths here besides me, okay? You didn't get that joke. It went right over your head. You didn't even get it. It went right over your head. I was waiting for the laugh, and it just boom, okay? Now, no blacksmith could be found in all the land of Israel, for the Philistines said, otherwise the Hebrews will make swords and spears, right? So you have a person who is able to wield and manipulate metals, right, and things like that to make various tools. That involves skill, practice. This guy's about to disintegrate over here. That'll be the joke of the year, I promise you. That's okay. Oh, what you actually asked? What is he talking about? Black. Oh, blacksmith. Right. I got it now. Right. That's so funny. A word translated in art in the Greek text is the word techne. Now, you may notice this, right? We use this word in our common day vernacular, right? As in the case of technology or technological or even technician, right? It is a person who has skill and knowledge and practice in their craft. Once again, I could say that you are artists and technicians of your departments, right? That you're studying and learning, right? This word only occurs 3 times in the Greek scriptures. Use that mic. Okay. Do I just leave this on and look beautiful? Yep, it's good. Okay. Oh, it's even louder. Wow. Okay, this word occurs only 3 times in the Greek scriptures. Okay. It occurs twice in Acts 18, verse 3, concerning Paul and him being a tent maker. Okay, it says, because he was of the same trade, he stayed with them, and as they were working, for by trade they were tent makers. That word trade is techne. Okay, again, skill, practice. You couldn't go down to the local Walmart and get your tent, right? You had to get it from someone who knew how to make them, right? And if they didn't make them well, it would influence the whole entire tent. And Revelation chapter 18, verse 22, concerning the city of Babylon. Right? It says, and the sound of harpists and musicians and flute players, trumpeters will not be heard in you any longer, for no craftsman of any craft or any techne will be found in you any longer, and the sound of the mill will not be heard in you any longer. So at this particular period of history, at the city of Babylon, it will be laid to waste, right? And all of the people that were there, harpists, musicians, players, those who were crafted in music and even in skill in various practices will no longer be there. Let's go to Acts 17. I would like to read this and then look at some particular characteristics and qualities here in this text. Now, Paul, in the broader context, has just left Thessalonica. He goes to Berea. He is left it by night in the region of Thessalonica. They did not care too much for him. Then he went to Berea, and they welcomed him, right, with open arms. And then from there, he went to Athens, right? This is the famous Mars Hill Areopagus discourse, right? And he goes through Athens and is very irritated at what he sees. He's kind of stirred up at what he sees, all the idols that are around, right? And he's going around teaching Christ and the gospel. And the Stoic philosophers go, hey, this is kind of interesting. Hey, why don't you come down and speak to us and present, kind of like the TED Talk of the day. Hey, why don't you come over to the Areopagus and present these to the people? This is new. We've never heard this before. So let's go ahead and take a look at this, right? I'll start at verse 22, and we'll read this, and then we'll make some comments based upon the topic. So Paul stood in the midst of the Areopagus and said, men of Athens, I observe that you are very religious in all respects. For while I was passing through and examining the objects of your worship, I also found an altar with this inscription, to an unknown God. Therefore, what you worship in ignorance, this I proclaim to you all. The God who made the world and all things in it, since he is Lord of heaven and earth, does not dwell in temples made with hands, nor is he served by human hands, as though he needed anything, since he himself gives to all people life, breath, and all things. And he made from one man every nation of mankind to live on the face of the earth, having determined their appointed times and the boundaries of their habitation, that they would seek God, if perhaps they might grope for him and find him, though he's not far from each one of us. For in him we live and move and exist. And even as some of your own poets have said, for we are his children. Being then the children of God, we ought not to think that the divine nature is like gold or silver or stone or an image formed by the art and the thought of man. It's a very curious passage here. Okay? Paul, in his discourse, is making a comparison between the idols that are found within Athens and God himself. And he mentions this sentence here, this statement, that being then the children of God, we ought not to think that the divine nature is like gold or silver or stone, an image formed by the craft or the art and thought of man. So, where does art begin? In terms of visual, medium, in terms of our skill set and our practice, where does it start? Well, according to Paul, it starts with, I'll give you the answer in a minute. From this text, how do we know, reading this text, that Paul knew that they were religious? Well, because he was seeing all of the idols, right, around in Athens. They were a picture, right, of all these idols that these individuals, these false deities that these individuals were worshiping, that they were giving their attention to in their time, right? That's easy. But here's another question with perhaps a not so obvious answer. If that's the case, based upon this text of what Paul said, what can we say that art displays? I would submit to you that based upon Acts 17, that art displays a message. When we look at a painting, when we watch a movie, when we listen to music, even in our own craft, we are attempting to communicate something to that person. We're attempting to maybe perhaps convince them of something, right? Of a message. In the case of, in the Paul's case in Acts 17, these idols all around were communicating the message of what that idol represented. It was the information that displayed fully. So art begins or originates from the mind. If we see this in verse 29, that Paul says, being then the children of God, we ought not to think the divine nature is like gold or silver or stone, an image formed by the art and the thought of man. Think about all of the things that we've invented. All of them, just for a primitive level, all of the music that we've heard throughout the centuries. All of the movies that have been crafted. They've all comic books, manga, for my anime lovers out there. All of these things have started in the mind of a person. All of them. Okay? Even the jobs that we have, the skills that we acquire, all of them have started from the mind. They didn't just fall in our lap, right? We've thought about them and been intentional with them. Art can come out of a person's outlook. We would call that a worldview, right? You can't make stuff beyond your own worldview. All of us work, live, create, produce out of what we believe and know to be true. Okay? Art communicates a message regionally, nationally, or internationally. It all does. I would be sure that if we saw the same idols that Paul saw, we would know half of them, right? But that culture did. Art All types of art could be used to communicate a message that may be controversial, impactful, hopeful, glorious. Art can communicate two things. It could be used to examine an internal outlook. It could be used to stir up a crowd. It could be used to gather a crowd together. I find it very fascinating in my naturalistic observation of you guys worshiping, standing up, right? Lifting your hands. All of you guys doing this collectively. The music is doing this, stirring you, right? Informing you. Behind that music is a message of hope, of promise. And hopefully it reinforces the very thing and the information that you're learning in class and amongst your peers and even outside in your local churches. So art, doesn't matter the medium, could be used to examine an external outlook. It could be used to examine a society's perspective. It could be used to examine our perspective within that society and how it impacts us. That includes not just paintings and music, but the crafts and the jobs that we acquire, what society admires and what it doesn't. Or it can be used to reflect an internal outlook, personal and societal. I have to tell you, one of my most favorite directors in the whole world is a nihilist. Why? Because he puts on celluloid a worldview that is plain. You don't have to read Nietzsche and fall asleep to know what nihilism is. You just have to watch his movies, right? He makes it very plain Jane, right? He has put his worldview on celluloid to talk about life in a personal way and society when it's used, when it's filtered through this outlook. Art does the same thing as well. So do our jobs. Why do we have them? What is the point? What is the preference of them? We have them because we believe that they're important to us and that we can use them to help others, right? It's very important. Extra biblical sources can sometimes communicate truthful themes. This is very interesting. Acts 17, verse 28. For in him we move, we're in him we live and move and exist, even as some of your own poets have said, for we are also his children. Paul is using extra Torah sources to make his case for the God who's in the Torah. Ain't that something? Now, I put an asterisk back there is, of course, Paul was trained to do this, right? Just as like you're being trained to do that very thing, to look at the culture, to examine it, and to take themes, even outside of the scriptures, but aligned with the scriptures, to make sense of the world. That's part of art too, you know. And of course, used to reflect a particular culture. If I want to know a culture, I love Bollywood movies. I'm a big Bollywood fan. I cannot tell you how many times I think it's very fascinating that they can do a musical interlude in an action movie. It's rather amazing to watch, and they're very entertaining, right? But that movie gives me a glimpse into the culture, into the activity, and the beliefs and the workings of that culture. Some of the crafts, some of the jobs, some of the skills, some of the things they find important, some of the themes. Themes within art. I love this. Art can explore very deep concepts that sometimes we can't talk about face to face. It can give us controversial things that sometimes we might overlook, right? We might push aside. We might pretend that they're not there. Art of all types can explore tragedy, loss, death, triumph, hope, justice, mercy, friendship. Think about all of the literature that has been written with these themes. Think about some of the subject matter that we've discussed in our classes and in your classes that circle around these themes. All of these themes touch us. All of them impact us and influence us in one way or another. And we can use our skills and our knowledge and expertise to guide individuals through these things, whether you be a teacher, a musician, whether you be a business major or a youth leader. All of these things are impactful and influential. Romantic love, freedom, humor, despair, and love itself. All of these themes could be found within art. I mean, our crafts. Some more thoughts. Just kind of wrapping up here. Any type of art, whether stationary, what I mean is that you see it on a wall, or moving, whether it's celluloid or whether it's you, or melodious, music and sounds, is a form or a branch or agency of media. The word media is an intermediary agency. It's used to communicate something. Even we in our vocation and what we're learning, we are a form or a branch of that too. If we look at art as skill and learning and involving craftsmanship and practice, we are a form of that media. We are using our abilities and our skills to communicate to others what is important. These themes. We don't have to go to a movie theater. It's just you teaching at the local church. You're a branch of media. You teaching in a classroom. You're a branch of media. You playing the basketball team, which is gone, right? They are a branch of media, right? Since art is a type of media, it can be used to communicate or translate a message, whether that message be good or bad, true or false. Okay? All art, even if it's abstract, can contain aspects of the artist's outlook or worldview. There is not a single artiste here or in the world that creates and doesn't do so without their worldview. Okay? That's important. Okay? The message in art could be overlooked if the medium that is used to carry it is skillful. Isn't this fascinating? When you listen to music, what is the first thing that you hear? The beat, the sound. The words come later, right? So the message can be overlooked if the medium is skillful. If I'm skillful in talking to you, what will you say? Oh man, that was a great message. He was all over the place. I had no idea what he said, right? If I'm skillful in communicating to you, I mean being, rowdy and stuff like that. So a message can be overlooked. Okay? Art can be used to carry truthful, overarching themes. We do this all the time. Okay? Don't just look at it as something you're listening to or watching, but you're the art. You guys, all of you, carry with you skill sets that communicate a message. All of you guys do this. These themes within the medium, now this is for my biblical counseling majors here, can be used for counseling. I cannot tell you how many times I've used a movie line. I cannot tell you how many times I've used music. I cannot tell you how many times I've used art. I cannot tell you how many times I've used Play-Doh. okay, in a counseling session to get individuals to look at deeper themes and truths about themselves and others and God. Music counseling. I love this. Having a counselee bring in music that impacts them if they're grieving or if they've gone through tragedy or conflict, something that speaks to them. I'm sure that you guys have listened to music and have been brought to tears at what you've heard because it speaks to you. I'm sure that there's someone here that has heard another person say something that someone else said 100 times before, but it clicks with that person and you get it, right? Music has the ability to draw us, to bring out these themes in a very non-threatening way, right? Or threatening way, depending on the genre, right? Art, and I mean art as in pictures, painting, drawing, even doodling has an impact. I can basically, in a session, tell what somebody's worldview is by what they draw. I can tell what their pain is by what they draw, especially children. Okay? Children can't communicate like us, so we give them another medium to transmit that information to us so that we can see that. That is very valuable and very beneficial. Oftentimes, when counselees are in heavy trauma, they can't speak. I tell them to draw it or bring music. Acting. This is powerful. Powerful in terms of its presentation. Now, all of these mediums are different, but I can use these to basically affect the same conclusion or the same response, to get an individual to understand main themes about themselves and others, and conflict and loss, grief, and all that. And quite frankly, we all do this. We all use this to some extent, whether we are doodling inside of class or doodling outside of class. Okay. Last sum up here. We ought to at very least recognize the themes and the worldview of the medium that we experience. That's really the whole purpose of crafts and design, to appreciate the craftsmanship of others. I cannot tell you how grateful I am for all of the departments that are represented here. Not just the teachers, but you guys. Because you guys are going to take these skills that you learn and you're going to create new things. Or maybe build on things that you know to help others. That is honoring. I appreciate that. To not forget to enjoy the medium too. This isn't, I kind of annoy my wife a lot because I will analyze movies to death, right? And my wife just goes, why don't you just watch it? You know what I'm saying? That'd be kind of nice, right? Let's not forget to enjoy the medium. You can analyze it too, but enjoy it, right? Enjoy being wrapped up in the story. Enjoy seeing someone else's skill and design. Enjoy looking at someone else's craftsmanship and appreciating it, right? Especially if the artist is skilled. If they're skilled, I'll leave it up to you, right? Oh, whoops. Thank you for possibly listening.
As Professor Stolberg comes, I just have one thought. When you said extra biblical sources can sometimes communicate truthful themes that align with Scripture, I almost felt like you were just talking about psychology, but you were talking about art. Do you feel like this is an idea that's true across all genres?
I do. I think so. I mean, Paul was quoting poetry, right? And so if all subjects are created by God, right, to reflect truth and reality, right, then we ought to, the scriptures ought to guide us in finding these particular themes all throughout other disciplines, which is why really we have all these disciplines here, right? Not just Bible, teaching people how to examine the scriptures, but we have music, we have counseling, we have business, right? We have elementary education. And so I think we can, if we are trained well, we can find these themes anywhere, everywhere. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Smith. As I turn it over to Chris, I will say this is the last day to sign up with 2K